Hey everyone, DJ here. Welcome back to the show. I gotta say, I've been having a lot of fun talking about the various international characters introduced in The Great Race, but this week I really need a break. Don't worry, I will finish the lineup eventually, but I thought it would be fun to mix things up. Therefore, this week I am taking the suggestion of this commenter and talking about none other than Neville, the Season 9 newbie who, much like his hit model-era contemporaries, kind of fell off the face of the earth once the era had ended. As the user who suggested Neville said, Neville ticks pretty well all of the boxes when it comes to good characters for this series. Limited appearances, and a really interesting basis, a great topic to delve into. He is a character that I am very excited to talk about, as he is not only a childhood favorite, but a character that I hadn't even thought about for this series until now, making this a highly anticipated revisit for me. So, without further ado, let's jump right into it. Neville is a black, square-shaped tender engine who first arrived on Sodor in the Season 9 episode Thomas and the New Engine. In this episode, two big things are happening on Sodor. A bridge is broken, and a new engine named Neville has arrived on the island. Thomas is sent to collect supplies to mend the bridge before he can properly meet Neville, and when he arrives at the yard, he mistakes Neville being laughed at by Arian Bert for Neville laughing with Arian Bert. This leads to a rumor about Neville being friends with the Diesels, not wanting to be friends with steam engines, and wanting to biff the steam engines, all of which are, of course, untrue. The problems with the rumors reach their peak as the Fat Controller tells Thomas to warn all of the engines about the broken bridge. Neville, however, goes unwarned because he passes through Abbey Station pulling Annie and Clarabelle. Thomas gets mad, Emily is rude to Neville, and he puffs away sadly. At this point, Thomas realizes from Emily's account of the information that the rumor got completely out of control, to which Toby then arrives and explains that Neville was indeed being made fun of by Arian Bert, not laughing with them, and now, of course, Neville is heading towards the damaged bridge. The episode culminates in Neville crashing through a barrier and hanging precariously off the edge of the broken bridge over another track below. Thomas comes to his rescue, however, and the two make up. Thomas apologizes for the rumors and not warning Neville, and Neville is happy to be Thomas's friend. After this, Neville only appeared in the show 2 more times. He cameoed in the Season 11 episode, Emily's Rubbish, where he appeared in a line of engines as embarrassed Emily puffs by with Smelly Whiff, and he appeared for the final time in the Season 12 episode, Best Friends, where he shows up at the quarry and informs Thomas and Percy that the brass band will be arriving to play soon. Neville is described by the wiki as gentlemanly, highly enthusiastic, kind, and a little naive. He is an engine who never holds a grudge, but does get hurt easily by people judging him for his diesel-like appearance. He is, of course, always happy to make new friends, and also enjoys dirty, noisy work. Neville is based on a Southern Railways Bullied Q1 class, a class of 40 060 engines built in 1942, designed by the chief mechanical engineer of the Southern Railway, Oliver Bullied. The locomotives were built in response to the Southern Railway finding itself as a strategic war asset due to its closeness to mainland Europe during the Second World War. Thus, the predominantly passenger railway, which now needed to haul immense amount of wartime freight trains and only had the 1938 Q class, which was built using Victoria-era principles, might I add, was in need of a new engine. Oliver Bullied then set to work designing the Q1 class, an austerity tender engine from which he stripped away many non-essential design features like running boards and splashers to save on raw materials during wartime. This gave the engine its unusual shape. However, factors like the materials used and the stressing of efficiency and functionality of operation were also factors. The shape also had the nice benefit of allowing the engines to be driven through a coach washer for cleaning, a great help when manpower during the war could not be spared. The first 20 were built at Brighton Railway Works, and the later 20 at Ashford Railway Works. These were the most powerful 060 steam engines ever in the British railway system. They were powerful and light, and they quickly became the foundation of the Southern Railway's freight operations. The engines had a tractive effort of 30,000 80-pound force and gained several nicknames over the years, including Coffee Pots, Charlies, and their most famous, Ugly Ducklings. It should also be noted that because the Q1s were light, they could operate on virtually all of Southern Railway's routes, and thus they were utilized for secondary passenger trains often. They did, however, have bad braking on unfitted freight trains thanks to their light tender braking system, but that wasn't a deal breaker evidently. The engines were highly successful during World War II and were kept in service until 1963, at which point they were gradually withdrawn, with the last of the class removed from service in 1966. Only one of the classes preserved, the first of the class, 33001, which lives at the National Railway Museum in York, displayed with its original SR livery and number C1. It did originally, however, work on the Bluebell Railway, running for several periods during its time there before coming to the National Railway Museum in 2004. It should be noted, however, that this locomotive is not Neville's actual basis. That is BR33010, formerly SRC10, which unfortunately was scrapped in 1964 at Bird's Monoraven Scrapyard in Morriston, Swansea. For the purposes of the TV show, however, we can just say that the engine wasn't scrapped, as Neville does wear his BR number, thus indicating he is meant to be this specific engine. A pretty remarkable history for such an underutilized character. Neville is one of those characters, in my opinion at least, that is really just impossible to hate. With some of the hit-era characters, they can either be really annoying or just absolute nothing burgers, but with Neville, although his personality doesn't get that much time to shine through, it does here and there, and you really end up empathizing with him and rooting for him in the end. Yeah, it sucks that the other main characters basically had to be dumbed down to idiot high schoolers in order for the rumor plot to work, but in terms of Neville specifically and the associated moral, I like it a lot. Neville is also without a doubt a childhood favorite of mine. I still remember getting to pick him out at the store as the one train I could get that day, and I always had my butt glued to the couch whenever his episode came on. It was also one I reenacted frequently with my toys, as the crash was awesome, with the consist of him and Annie and Clarabelle being so cool looking. It is without a doubt a shame that he did not appear again. And here is the very Neville I used to reenact that episode so many times. This is the 2006 Take-Along Neville. And I'm going to be completely honest, this is probably the best model I have looked at so far on this series. Not only is the detailing great, such as his firebox and tender, but his shape and proportions look like they've been ripped right out of the show itself. If there was a way to put real pistons on this guy, he wouldn't be too far off from what I could see Bachman or Hornby doing with their own interpretation. Might I also mention his face? So accurate. It just goes to show how great of a range old school Take-Along was. With all that said, I can confidently give Take-Along Neville a 10 out of 10. Well, that concludes this week's episode on Neville, a character who I think I can say without ticking off too many people would have been awesome to see in later eras of the show. Unfortunate what happened, but at least we got a cool Season 9 episode out of it. Thanks for watching, guys. If you have any suggestions for future characters, please let me know. Next week, I think we're going to keep going with the international characters and finally talk about Gina. However, there will definitely be more hit-era characters covered in future. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye, guys!